Welcome back to the brand new rebranded podcast of the Maiming Duck podcast. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to name this podcast, but what I want to do going forward with this podcast is I want to start bringing in I want to start having this podcast be more about like finance and investment banking. I want to bring on guests in which have great stories of getting into finance and investment banking, how they got in, what they do. People that work in investment banking, private equity, venture capital, or just any other type of finance role, strategic finance, asset management, corporate banking, just so that you guys can get more of a wide range of different career paths and knowledge of what each of these branches do. I think that would be pretty valuable to you guys. But aside from that, I really also want to focus on just the dichotomy of working job in finance and also outside of finance, right? And what do I mean by that? So I think a lot of the stuff I create on TikTok, um, my main goal is to help inspire you guys out there, for the people that either you want to break into finance but you don't know how to, or you want to get a certain job that you don't know how to get. Um, Basically, I want to create, or I do create content around how you can find better jobs, and in particular, I talk a lot about finding jobs in investment banking, how I was able to do it from a non-target school. But I feel like what I don't talk about enough and what I want to start talking about more is my journey and other people's journey of quitting finance. Because I feel like just as many people that want to get into finance and investment banking, there are just as many people that want to get out of finance and investment banking. And in my opinion, that choice is a lot harder to make just because you are kind of sacrificing a lot. Obviously you're quitting a pretty lucrative job. A lot of times you're being paid six figures, especially the deeper you get into like, finance and investment banking, your salary goes up. It makes it much harder to make that decision to quit the industry, right? Even though, the lifestyle could be toxic, you could be burnt out, but just like, well, you're making 300K a year by the time you're like 25, 26, you're like, oh shit, I mean, it pays pretty well, I guess. Like, it's kind of hard to just say, hey, screw this. I'm going to go figure things out for 2 years and see what happens. Um, so I kind of want to use this podcast to not only help prospective students or professionals that want to break into investment banking or the finance world, but I want to also use this podcast to help current working professionals in finance to understand people that, I want to be interviewing people that have gone out of finance and are now doing great things, right? And talk about how they did it, the mindset that led them to do that, and kind of what they're doing now. Because I think a lot of times finance, especially investment banking, can be kind of a cult that when you try to quit the industry, many people, I mean, this happened to me, right? When you try to quit the industry, many people are like, oh, where are you going next? You're going to corporate development? What company are you going to? Or doing private equity? For me, when I quit, I was like, nah, I'm doing none of those. I'm going to go figure it out and probably start creating content. And all my coworkers and managing directors were kind of like, oh, cool. Yeah, good luck. Go do that. Um, but yeah, I feel like, I want to kind of provide that platform, right? That platform transparency, authenticity of people that currently work in finance, that may want to kind of understand what is like outside finance to kind of like paint that picture for them, what that's like. Because my end goal of my content that I create is to one, inspire you to do what you want, get the job that you want, and two, inspire you to quit that job, right? Where that is to get a better job, a different job because you hate the job you're working at, or to go start a business. I think that is ultimately the goal of why I basically started creating content in the first place. And I think this podcast, more, I guess, like long form stories, can be a great platform for me to basically convey that idea. So, that being said, I want to talk about the first segment that I want to get into on this podcast, which this podcast episode is literally just me talking to myself in my room, which is kind of funny, but I don't know, kind of like it. I want to make this first episode a little bit special. Just me and myself talking, kind of like starting something new, starting this podcast in a different direction. But I want to talk about three things today. I want to talk about my story of how I got into investment banking. For those of you out there, you're maybe university students, maybe from non-target school, don't have the proper experiences like I did. And I want to share how I did it so that you guys out there can maybe follow a similar path and hopefully inspire some of you guys to do it as well. The second thing I want to talk about is my story of how I was able to quit investment banking, right? What I guess like the mindset I had when I knew I had to quit and how I finally came to courage to quit the job. This traditionally very lucrative job that many people would probably die to have. That I decided that I don't want to do it anymore. And last but not least, you guys don't need to stay here for the last part, but I'm just going to talk about my plans for the future just because why not? It's my podcast. I'm just going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you guys my plans, how I'm planning to make this entrepreneurship journey work, how I'm planning to monetize my content. And, I'm going to talk about my e-commerce stuff as well. Those of you that don't know, I have been trying to build out a e-commerce dropshipping business for the past year and a half. Have seen some successes, have seen some fails. So I just want to talk about that as well. But yeah, part one of this podcast, how I got into investment banking. So my story getting into investment banking actually starts a lot earlier than just my junior year. So basically, I guess like give you guys a quick rundown of my background. So I went to the University of California at San Diego. I studied electrical engineering, so I was like a STEM major and all that stuff. Went through my freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, basically just doing STEM engineering stuff. Like I interned at a pharmaceutical company as a manufacturing engineer. I interned at a medical company in Dallas, Texas, actually, as just like a typical hardware engineering internship. That was actually a 6-month co-op, which was pretty cool. Had to take some school off to do it. Was completely worth it. Had a blast in Texas. Met cool friends. But and when I came to the part where I was like, I kind of want to give investment banking a try. This was in my junior to senior year summer. And I know immediately when I say that, many people are like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, you can't recruit for investment banking summer internships at that time. Well, it was different for me because I was an engineering major. That means I was taking a fifth year. So technically, I was an income junior at the time. So what I ended up doing was I was working at that internship in July of 2017. And guys, I hated this internship. Like it was boring. It was at this defense company. It was just like very traditional 1980s corporate America. You're just sitting there all day long in this high cubicle walls, just no sunlight, no windows, no nothing. Um, I mean, it was a nice cushiony job. I always talk about this, like how if you're like 30, 35 years old, you have a family and stuff, this company is in San Diego, it's very stable, it pays decent. Like, my God, it's a pretty nice job if you're in that situation. But for a 21-year-old at the time that's trying to, quote unquote, do big things in the world, it felt suffocating, right? I felt like I was doing nothing all day, and I felt like I was kind of in a way made for much more. I want a more intense job. So nonetheless, I went back to drawing book and was like, and I forgot to mention at this point, honestly, guys, I knew I didn't want to be an engineer. I already knew I didn't want to be. I did engineering just because I knew it was a safe path. I knew it was good to have a technical degree, but I always knew that I didn't want to be an engineer in the long run. I always knew I was going to get something into something more business related. I don't care when it was, like 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, I knew I wanted to do something more business related. So it was during this internship that I was just like, I really hate what I'm doing right now. This job is very boring. What is the most intense job I can do? Lo and behold, and I knew about investment banking and also consulting. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Back when I was a freshman already, right? I heard about it. I didn't know too much about it. I was just like, oh, okay, here's this very cool Wall Street job. Like, I don't know too much about it. Never did much research. In my sophomore year, I almost was like, I should try to go for this, but I just never really like executed, right? So it wasn't until my junior year summer to my senior year when I was working this boring internship that I was doing. I was like, I need to do something about this. I need to figure out what these different career paths are that I can go into because I do not want to be doing engineering or this thing internship that I'm doing right now. So I began to ask around. I started out by just asking alumni from my school. Thankfully, I was a part of a business org slash business fraternity that basically had a couple alumni that either were trying to get into investment banking, or sorry, a couple seniors or people older than me trying to get into investment banking, or alumni that were working in investment banking and consulting. Because at that point, I was just like, I was open to both. I didn't care. I was like, I want to get into banking or consulting, like whichever one's easier, whichever one will take me, right? I'm like, dude, I'm kind of old, like deep into my college career at this point. I have zero business experience. All I have is just engineering stuff. Granted, I had a pretty solid engineering resume, right? I had like a 3.7 with like 3 internships. Like, it's pretty good. It wasn't bad. But I was like, I want to do something business related, right? And I'll see something between investment banking and consulting. So I network with a bunch of alumni in banking and consulting, and ultimately it was at first a little bit overwhelmed because I just didn't know like what I need to do. I think everyone starts at this point. They talk to some alumni after school and just like, yeah. You want to get into banking? Oh yeah, you gotta like network and call these guys, and you gotta study these technicals. I'm like, oh shit, what are these technicals? Like DCF, accounting principles, and like WAC. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And I'm just like, yeah, definitely. I'll tell you more. But it was very overwhelming at first, right? So I after I talked to like a few alumni, I was just like, oh, God, I don't know if I can do this. It's just like, it sounds like a lot of work. I'm kind of late to the game already. I was getting a little discouraged because they're like, yeah, you gotta like kind of start knowing you want to do investment banking since you're like a freshman. Like I've been preparing for it since I was a freshman. I'm just like, God damn, I'm like a junior right now, going to my senior year. I'm gonna be fifth year. Like, what am I doing? Like, why, why am I so late to the game? So like I kind of took a break for a month, just not thinking about it. And but guys, it was already July at this point. Okay, like right now, investment banks recruit all the way back in like February of like the year before they even have their internships. Like for example, like February 2022, they're recruiting for summer 2023 internships. Completely ridiculous. It's so stupid, but it's how the system works, right? Back when I was recruiting for investment banking in 2017, it was basically they start recruiting around like July, August, and it ends around October. So still kind of ridiculously early because it starts before school even begins, but much, much later compared to how early they start recruiting now. But anyways, it was just July at this point. I was just like, I was overwhelmed. I was like, I don't want to think about this. So I went back to my job for like another month, just kind of grinding away. And then like another 4 weeks doing that internship, I was like, you know what, Andrew, you have to make a decision. All right. I know it's risky. I know trying to pursue investment banking is going to be hard because you literally know nothing. Like I couldn't even name you what the 3 financial statements were at this point. I'd never taken a single accounting business finance class in college ever, right? I knew what forward transfers were. I knew integral calculus. I knew all these different things, but I couldn't tell you what a fucking balance sheet was. Okay, like that was how clueless I was. But anyways, I decided. I forgot what exact date it was, and I can probably look it up because I'll tell you. I'm about to tell you in a second why. But it was this one weekend that I was just like, I'm gonna give it a shot. I don't know what's gonna end up happening, but I have nothing to lose. I'm young. If this doesn't work out, I can always just recruit for engineering jobs that comes up in the fall because engineering obviously recruits at normal fucking timeline, like when school starts in like November, October and stuff. But I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a shot. I have a couple months to do this. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but I have nothing to lose. So why does it hurt to try anyways? I'm just gonna sacrifice the rest of my summer studying for this, trying to get into banking anyways. So what I actually did next was I called my mom. I called my mom and I was like, hey mom, just letting you know, I made a decision. My mom knew at this point that I hated my job. I was like, Mom, I'm going to try to break into investment banking. And, my mom's always been very supportive. She was like, go for it. You try it. You never know. So I was like, fuck yeah. So it was like a Friday night at that time. Next day, that weekend, to prepare to get into investment banking, you guys know what I did? I went to a rave. All right. I went to Heart Summer 2017. Blew my fucking brains out for a weekend. And I was like, all right, I'll start on Monday. So after a weekend on Monday, I'll still please note, I was still working my internship at this time too. But starting on Monday, I was like, I'm going to go to this rave and then I'll start trying to get into investment banking next Monday. So Monday came around, and it was pretty much go time. Like that that I mean, I'll talk about this more later, but I have never seen myself been more motivated to do something. Like it's kind of funny. I look back, wow, Andrew, you really want that, didn't you? Like you were pretty goddamn motivated. Like I could never find that motivation in my life again. But I went to work every day, my internship from like 9 a.m. to like 5, 6 p.m. Came back and then just start to study like financial technicals and networking with people from like 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. every single day for the rest of my internship. I mean, granted, at this point, I only have like 3 weeks left of my internship, but that was what I was doing. I legit almost miss. So, at the end of my internship, basically what we had to do was give a presentation about what we did during the internship and stuff. I legit almost missed that presentation because the day before, I was trying to learn how $10 of depreciation will flow through financial statements. Like I was like up to 2 a.m. studying the night before my internship presentation. And then my manager called me. He's like, Andrew, where you at? What you're about to present right now? Oh, because you present from like, senior managers and other people at the company, right? And it'll make him look bad if I didn't show up. I was like, oh shit. Yeah. I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Um, but that's a different story. Guys, I wasn't a great intern. I was not a good intern at all. So, but basically that's what I did. I did that for the last 3 weeks of my internship. I studied from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. every single day. And after my internship ended, I went back home to LA because my internship was in San Diego. And from like it was like, I don't know, like mid August at this point to like late August, I basically spent the rest of my summer every single day from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. either studying technical questions, um, networking on people, sending out networking emails, trying to get on calls with bankers. And I also went to like career fairs at different schools. So I was in LA. So USC starts school like late August, early September, I believe, like late August. So I was going to like a couple USC investment banking recruitment events because they hosted it there, and I was just like, well, shit. I go to UCSD, which if you guys, just a quick background, UCSD is like a non-target school for investment banking. So I there was no recruitment resources at my university, so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go to USC. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna go talk to these bankers and say, I don't go to school, but I still want to get into investment banking. So I did that pretty much the rest of the summer, and in the beginning, it was pretty discouraging. It was both, I guess. It was discouraging and encouraging because a lot of people I talked to were either encouraging, saying like, "Oh yeah, just do this, do that. It's pretty easy. You work hard, you'll get in." And I'll talk to like a couple of douchebags that would just be like, "Dude, you're so late to the game. Like, why even try? Like, we're late recruiting next week." Which is completely not true. Like, they're recruiting like the entire next 2 months. They're like, "Yeah, we're doing super days already. Like, you're too late to the game already. Don't even try. Just try to get your MBA." Oh yeah, I should tell a story. So basically, you know how I was saying I was going to like USC events, right? So USC had this event called, I forgot what it was called. It's like a town and gown or something. Where basically they have like a bunch of investment banking professionals come in for like a panelist event. And then I was talking to this guy. I'm not going to name the investment bank, but it was an investment bank in LA, obviously, because USC. And basically, he told me to not even try. He was just like, "Look, you don't even go to a target school. You have zero financial experiences. Just work a couple of years in engineering." And then get an MBA and pivot into investment banking, right? He straight up told me that. He's like, "You're wasting your time. Don't even try. Don't even try." And I was like, at that point, I would have been discouraged, but I already heard that so much at that point that I was just like, whatever, man. Like, I'm just going to try. If it doesn't work out, then I'll do your way, but you're not going to stop me. Like, I'm still going to do this until like I literally can't do anymore. Like, there's literally no investment banking positions available anymore. That's when I'll stop. That's when I'll stop. God, I was so motivated. Holy shit. I cannot find that motivation anymore. But yeah, pretty much like after like a month and a half of like no results, people just not wanting to give me a shot at all. Like most of the networking calls I have, people they're like, "Oh yeah, you're very well spoken, you seem like a cool guy, but we're just not looking to hire people like you." Or they won't say that, but they would just be like, "Yeah, cool, we'll be in touch," but you never hear back from them. It wasn't until like a little bit more deeper in that I was able to finally get like a first round interview at Citi. I'm just going to say the bank, whatever. I got first round interview at Citi because we had alumni working at that school. For some reason, we had like 2 to 3 UC San Diego alumni working in the Citi tech group. So this guy was nice enough to put me through for a technical interview, like the first round, right? And I was ecstatic. Because up until this point, like it's been like a month and a half. I had 0 interviews, nothing, no results, nothing to show for it. Just I knew the technicals pretty well at that point. Not perfectly, but I've been networking so much. I've been working on my story a lot. But just I never had a chance to like really test out my knowledge on the field, right? Get the chance to finally like catch a break, have an interview. So when I had this chance to finally interview, have first round, I was super excited, super nervous as well. And guess what happened, guys? I did the interview and I bombed the shit out of that interview. Like it's kind of sad. It wasn't even like it was sad, like how badly I bombed it. So if anyone out there has a first interview coming up or has bombed their first interview, just know that it's normal to shit the bed on your first technical interview because you're just so nervous that you can't answer anything. But yeah, I bombed my first interview. It's part of the process. Like, don't worry about it. You're supposed to like bomb your first one so you get more confident in the next one. So yeah, I bombed that one. Obviously, didn't get invited to Super Day. Um, I had another first round with like a different middle market bank. Didn't go anywhere. So I had 2 first rounds at this point. It's like it was like late September at this point. It was like last week of September. I've been doing this for like almost 2.5 months, because I started like beginning of August or something like that. And I had nothing. I was just like, I spent the last 2 months doing this. The guy was right at USC. I'm just wasting my time. Like, investment bank's not going to hire me. And luckily enough, at this point, I met a few pretty cool guys that worked in the industry through my networking calls that were kind enough to basically provide me advice of how I can do it. Um, and what one guy said was basically, dude, you've been reaching out to analysts and associates up to this point. Like, why are you still talking to analysts and associates? These guys obviously it hasn't worked for you. These guys, number one, aren't going to refer you. And number two, if they do, I mean, they're just not right. And then like the 1 to 2 times they do is very rare, and I kind of bomb those interviews anyways. But basically, he was saying like I was wasting my time trying to reach out to analysts and associates because these guys aren't going to put their, I guess, like their name, their reputation on the line for some non-target kid that probably just watched The Wolf of Wall Street or something. Said, "Yeah, I want to get into investment banking now." Kind of true. So I began reaching out to only VPs and MDs at that point, right? I just started to spam all VPs and MDs across the street, Wall Street, and the response rate was much lower at that time, but I did have one VP reply to me. And the reason this VP replied to me was because I interned, earlier I said I did internship in Texas at a medical company. So when I was intern there, I mean, I don't think this guy worked at the same time, but he worked at that same company as well, but under their business development department. And because we had that commonality, I was able to put that in the email to him. And he was just like, yeah, let's chat. Yeah, whatever. So I hop on a call with the VP and this guy. Funny story, actually. I'm not too proud of this, but I was actually really hungover on the call. It was like a Friday morning, and for some godforsaken reason, I went on Thursday night, and this call was like, again, for some reason, this call was like 8, 9 a.m., and I was out to like 2, 3 a.m. the night before, but I did the call anyways, and in a way, I actually think that kind of helped me on the call because I sounded so confident, and I didn't give a shit because I was just so hungover from that call that I was just like, I'm gonna try to get this over with. But I hopped on call with the guy. I told him my story. I told him everything, and basically he liked it. He liked my story. It was just like, oh yeah, that's cool. And what I realized, but sorry, not what I realized. Something that worked on the call that I came to realize was that like I was like pretty aggressive with asking him to basically, I won't say give me a referral, but even I've like even though he liked my story, he was still kind of like a little wary to like be like, I'm not too sure if I want to refer this kid or anything. It's like, it's whatever. But then I kind of push for it, right? And this is kind of what I recommend some of you guys out there to do is like if you happen to get on call VP and MD and stuff, be genuine. I mean, don't be too aggressive, but definitely push for it. definitely like, really convey that you really want it and that you have been working very hard and that you're ready for an interview basically, right? Because basically, like what this guy said or what I told him was that like I gave him my typical spiel. I talk about this a lot about this on my TikTok account, right? It's like, oh, how can I best position myself for an interview at your firm? Or like, what do you guys typically look for in a candidate? He'll give some generic responses like, oh yeah, we know look for people with like great financial experiences, great GPA, people that really want to work in banking. I'm like, all right, cool, 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 cool. So how can I get an interview? It's like, because I think I literally told him like, look, I've been trying to get interview at investment bank up to this point. Like I've been working really hard. I know all the technicals. I've been studying this nonstop. I'm ready for an interview. I just haven't really catch a break yet. Granted, I was like so hungover on this call. I didn't give a crap. Like I was just like, I'm gonna say what I want. But I think because I sound so confident, he was just like, do you know what DCF is? I'm like, yeah, I can walk you through it right now. He's like, oh no, that's fine. Okay. How about this? How about you just send me your resume? I'll see what I can do about it. I was like, great, sounds good. I'll send you my resume. Hung up the call, sent him my resume. And honestly, like this was like the first week of October at this point, right? Like last week of September, first week of October. I don't exactly remember which one it was. At this point, I kind of gave up already. I was like, look, all the investment banks are almost done recruiting. I if I don't get any next 2 weeks, I'm just gonna stop, right? Like maybe I'll do a boutique investment banking internship during the school year, and then maybe I'll do a boutique investment banking job after college for like 1 year or something, and then lateral to like a bigger bank afterwards. That was already like my plan at that point. I kind of already lost hope, right? It was like the last, like I already knew at that point investment banks were starting to wrap up their recruitment, but because of that call, I didn't even expect him to like refer me because at that point I lost hope. I was just like, yeah, everyone just says they'll be in touch. They'll do something about it. I sent my resume to so many people already. I'm just like, here's just another one. But miraculously, it was a Wednesday. I still remember this to this day. It was a Wednesday. I get a call from the HR at this bank. I mean, I'll tell you what bank it is. It was Piper Jaffray, right? I get a call. I mean, it's on my TikTok account. I'm not hiding anything. It's also my LinkedIn. You could probably find it. Um, and the HR was like, "Hey, is this Andrew?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is Andrew." She was like, "Yeah, we're having our last super day for our summer internship for 2018 this Friday, which is 2 days from now." She didn't say it was 2 days from now, but like I was like, "Oh shit, it's Wednesday right now. This is Friday. That's 2 days from now." She's like, "Yeah, are you interested in joining? She said this is the last super day, and this is the last spot for the super day." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do. I'm interested. Yeah, definitely. Let's do it." She's like, "Great, I'll put you down. Our expenses department will be in touch. We'll book you a flight and a hotel, and we'll get you up there like literally tomorrow." So I was like, "Oh shit! All right, cool." Next day, because I was already in school at this point, I ditched class the entire Thursday. I studied all the technicals. I tried to review everything I could. Like I was like, "This is it." I need to get this job. So Thursday night, I fly out to. Oh, this is in San Francisco, by the way. The internship or interview. I fly out to the San Francisco location. Oh, by the way, the VP that referred me. Funny enough, this guy didn't even work in San Francisco. This guy worked in Minneapolis. All right, middle of nowhere. All right, and this guy was born in like South Dakota or something. Right, so me and this guy literally had nothing in common except for the fact that we worked at the same company at one point. But yeah, this guy wasn't even San Francisco office, but somehow he was able to refer me to the SF office. So yeah, I flew out Thursday night. I get into my hotel. It's like this. Fuck, where was it? It was like a pretty nice hotel and stuff. Like I'm trying to remember exactly where the hotel was. I'm drawing a blank right now. It Actually, did I even go? No, I didn't go to a hotel. No, I stayed at a friend's place. Whatever, irrelevant. They would book me a hotel, but irrelevant. I stayed at a friend's place, and I went next day for the interview, right? And I remember that morning of the super day. I remember that morning because basically, I was at McDonald's eating breakfast before my super day, and I just remember thinking to myself, being like, "I think this is it, Andrew. If you don't get this offer today." I don't think you're getting into investment banking. I mean, obviously, I could still like get in like regional boutique and then do that path, right? I talked about it, right? But at that point, I was like, yeah, this is their last super day, and it's like first week October. Like, I think all investment banks are already done recruiting. Like this, if you don't get this offer today, you're not getting into investment banking, and almost like that didn't scare me really. Like almost like okay with it, or I just didn't think about it too much, right? Like, it didn't get to me. I was just like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. We're here already. Let's just do the interview." And I was just happy right at that point. I was just happy that I made it that far. Like, 2 months ago, I couldn't tell you what the 3 financial statements were. And today, an investment bank is willing to give me a shot. Some kid from non-target school, 0 financial experiences, nothing, no connections. He was like, "Let's get this guy a shot to interview for this investment banking position," right? And that to me was just already victory, success. Like, I already made it. Just the fact that I had a shot. Like, I didn't even I mean, I wanted the offer, but the offer wasn't already something that I was like, "If I don't get this, I'm a failure." I already felt like I won because I was able to have the chance to interview. But you guys already know the story, obviously. Like, I did the interview. I killed it. I killed that interview, guys. Like, looking back to this day, I have never killed an interview as hard as this. I think, like, I look so passionate about finance in a job, which is I'm like, holy shit. I'm the complete opposite now, but I look so passionate about investment banking on the interview. I talked to analysts, associates. Okay, the first round was a technical round, and I shat the bed at one of the questions, but one of the guys, the guy that did the technical interview, he's super chill. I love this guy. He was just like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You just missed one question. I was like, oh, thank you. But yeah, I did the super day. It was from like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., like 4 hours of grueling, just talking to people back and forth. But I was on fire. I was on fire. I said things that day that I don't even know how I said. I don't even know I can say it again. I killed every single question. I had answer for everything to prepare for me because I just practiced so much at that point. And I got the offer. And how I got the offer was almost like a little bit like poetic. I was walking out on the streets of San Francisco after my interview, just feeling great. Feeling great that like number one, like I said, I was very grateful that I had the chance to interview, but also just grateful that I did well. I did my best. I gave it all. And at that point, it I want to say like I didn't care if I got the offer or not because I knew that like I gave it my all and I did my best, and if I don't get the offer at that point, then it's okay because it wasn't because I made a mistake, which is, the stars didn't align or anything. But I was walking through San Francisco, I get a call. Like, I swear to God, I left the building for like 15 minutes at that point. I get a call from the HR of the bank, right? And she was like, "Hey, is this Andrew?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Andrew." She's like, "Yeah, um, the team was super impressed with what you said in the interview today, and we would like to extend you an offer for the 2018 Investment Banking Ceremonial Analyst Program." Holy shit, guys. Holy shit. I did it. I fucking did it. I fucking did it. I was like, I never been caught out of breath before. I don't know what the saying is. I never been like out of breath before, but in that moment, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, shit, man. I was just so happy. I don't even know. Happiness was the right way to describe it. It was a feeling I couldn't describe at all. I was just like, I was like, "Thank you." I don't know what to say, like, this is crazy. Um, I mean, of course, I sound more excited to her, right? I had to sound a little more excited, but after the call, I hung up and I just walked around the street in San Francisco for a bit. I mean, I didn't want to do anything else. I want to take in that feeling of, like, this I mean, let's be honest, like, right now, I've been doing this entrepreneurship shit for, like, a year and a half, and, I'm still waiting for to catch my break, right? But 2 months at that point was, like, a long time. 2 months of every day from 9 AM to 2 AM, right? I mean, if you include the internship, that worked that too. For it to for something that in the beginning, I didn't know anything about, that seemed impossible. People told me it's impossible. I had people that encouraged me, but I also had people that told me that not even to try. To get to a point that I was able to get the offer, from a place where people, I won't say looked down on me, but just said like, just kind of like I was irrelevant. People just didn't even bat an eye. They'll get on networking calls on me, just be like, all right, cool, yeah, whatever, good luck, right? To get in a point where I'm like, I got the offer, I got the offer. And it was like that scene in Pursuit of Happiness. I don't know if you guys ever seen a movie with Will Smith where he finally gets a job as a stockbroker in San Francisco. And he was just so happy, like clapping his hands on the street at SF. I was Will Smith that day, guys. I was Will Smith that day walking around SF. Um, but yeah, that was kind of my story of getting into investment banking. It is one that I will say I am somewhat most proud of, to this day, where I started in a place where I didn't believe I can do it, right? And this is why I guess I can say I'm so passionate about this when I talk about it on my account. Because I'm gonna get to a bit of like why I quit investment banking and stuff, but you know, this is a story where um even though like I'm like investment banking, whatever, man, you don't have to do the job, it's not that great. But it's the fact that in the moment it seemed like this Goliath that I had to overcome, this thing that I couldn't accomplish, that I didn't believe I could accomplish, that I just told myself, fuck it, we're gonna fucking do it anyways, and we're gonna see what happens, right? Because I don't think I ever challenged myself like that before, right? And to be honest, it's a fucking job, dude. Who cares, man? Challenge yourself, whatever, man. You challenge yourself to get a job, right? But it was the more the mindset, the attitude that I have, that I didn't think I could do it, but I said we're gonna try it anyways, and just having that experience like has kind of like set a precedence in my life where I now, which kind of, leads me to the next step why I quit the industry, right? Which is like, just because something seems impossible in a moment doesn't mean you can't accomplish it, right? Many people write themselves off before they even try to do something, right? Which is, why I create the content I create. I try to help people get the jobs that they want. I try to inspire people to quit their jobs because I just believe that like our minds are so powerful. Like it all starts in the head. If we believe we can't do it, we can't do it. But if you believe you can do it, you might not still be able to do it. But you know what? Yeah, yeah, you at least have a chance now. But yeah, that's my story getting into investment banking. This podcast has been going on for a while. I'm not too sure if I'm gonna break into two parts or anything, but yeah. Next part. All right, I'm just gonna do it. Fuck it. I'm gonna do it all one podcast because to be honest, I just want to have the first episode just be about my story so far. If not like anyone listens to it, at least I want to document the story and talk about just like my thoughts where I am right now on July 15th, 2022. So, anyways, a year passes. I do my summer internship. I worked under the consumer investment banking group at Piper Jaffray. Phenomenal internship. Had a great time. Met this buddy of mine that I'm still friends with to this day. He was one of my coworkers, intern buddies and stuff. Was able to work on a M&A transaction for a fitness company. Was actually able to take the role of a full-time analyst on it because the analyst that was on the deal quit 2 weeks into my summer internship. So literally they didn't have an analyst. So I was legit the analyst on the job 2 weeks into my internship. So like I was thrown a lot of responsibilities immediately, which low-key, I kind of thrive in that environment. I like it when I'm like, Andrew, this kind of depends on you. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, dude, give it to me. Which kind of brings me to a point of why I quit later, but I'll get to that. But yeah, oh, before I talk too much about why, oh yeah, so I wrapped that internship, got the return offer, eventually lateral over to the bank I worked at for full time, which is Wells Fargo, and yeah, and pretty much, I mean, I can go into my internship stuff, but I don't think that's relevant. That's not that interesting. So yeah, before I talk about me working full time investment banking and why I quit, I want to talk quickly about how you can get into investment banking, right? Because I mean, obviously, enough of me talking about myself. How can I help you now, right? So, in order to get into investment banking, if you're currently a non-target student with no experience, this is for you. If you do have experience or you don't come from non-target, this is still for you because it's still also relevant. But my story, can be very inspiring, helpful for those who come from non-target school without the proper quote unquote experience. So there's a couple of things you need to do to get into investment banking. Number one, you need to believe that you can. Right? I think that's the most important part, right? Like, to be honest, I didn't even believe I could at that point. I just kind of shut my brain. I was like, shut the fuck up. We're just gonna do it anyways, right? Hold up, guys. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. But step one is believing that you can. Because if you don't believe you can, you're already lost. So that's step one. And trust me, you can. But I hate to admit this, there are a few prerequisites to get into investment banking. And it's not like if you don't have these, you can't get in. You'll just be a lot tougher, even tougher than how it was for me, right? But there are other ways to get into it, which I will probably talk about in future podcasts or just on my TikTok account. But you do need a decent GPA. You kind of have to. It's just how the industry runs. I'm sorry. Ideally above a 3.7, 3.6 is fine. 3.5, you're point of fire. 3.4, it's gonna be very tough. But ideally above a 3.7. Any above 3.7, I think you're fine. At that point, also, you want to have at least some sort of professional experiences on your resume, right? Where this is, for me, I had engineering internships, but if you have financial internships, business related internships, that of course is going to be better. But you want to show a track record of a guy that takes himself seriously professionally and a track record of being like quote unquote a hard worker. So I'll say those are two main prerequisites: a decent GPA, above ideally above a 3.7, and a track record of developing professionally, right? And ideally, even if your school's a non-target school, ideally you still go to a top 100 university. Uh, in our case, the USA, right? Which I'm going to assume most of you guys do. I don't uh, I may sound very inconsiderate when I say this, but I'm pretty sure it's not that hard to get into top 100 university in USA. And if you aren't at one, you can probably transfer into one. But I'm not going to talk too much about that because maybe it's not right. But I think most of my viewers are probably in a top 100 university in the USA, right? Like, for example, I think UCR is like 90 something or whatnot. I don't quote me on that. But anyways, aside the point, let me continue. So yeah, so those are prerequisites, but really to get into investment banking, it's just three things. It's just really three things you got to do. Number one, you gotta have a good story, okay? Not because you watch The Wolf of Wall Street or you trade stocks and stuff that now you want to work in finance. No, have a great personal story that's personal to you that has to deal with like the financial markets or how you discover investment banking and now how you realize that it was a career you want to do, right? Make sure it's personal. Make sure it's personally unique to you that no one else can copy, right? Number two, technicals. Technicals, I can go very deep into it, but I'm just going to keep it very brief. I personally used to break into Wall Street Guide. I talked about this in my account before. They have a new guide now. I never used the new one. I used the old one, but I'm assuming it's just as good. But I used to break into Wall Street Guide. And honestly, for technicals, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. If you're looking to get a summer internship in investment banking, the really only technicals you need to know, I mean, not only ones, but the ones you have to know page to page are accounting principles, valuation methodologies, DCF, WACC, and like EBITDA slash cash flow calculations, and like, enterprise equity value, stuff of that sort. Basically, everything before M&A and LBO models. Know it page to page, but M&A and LBO models, in my personal opinions, those questions rarely come up in interviews, especially for summer analysts, unless you're interviewing for like a super selective shop or like a elite boutique, right? If you're just interviewing for like even like bulge brackets and stuff like JP Morgan, Bank of America, and like all the middle markets, like dude, you're barely going to get any questions for M&A and LBO models unless you're interviewing for like an M&A team or something like that, right? Then probably you are. But yeah, like M&A and LBO models, just know what they are high level, understand what like a source and uses table are, what goes into them, how to walk through one, and like kind of purpose of it, like M&A model, like yeah, it's to understand the accretion dilution of a merger acquisition, right? What happens with all cash, all debt, all stock deal, stuff of that sort, right? But other than that, like no one's going to ask to walk you through like a fucking asset, like I don't even know what it's called right now, like asset write up, asset write down, deferred tax liabilities, like a debt schedule on the LBO model. You're not going to get like intangible asset write some stuff. Like you don't get questions like that. Trust me. You just won't, because half the time the bankers don't even know what the fuck those things are. You'd be surprised how many people who work in banking actually can't even build an LB or M&A model. But yeah, anything before M&A LBO model, like everything before that, no page to page. But those two last like behemoths, don't worry too much about them. Just know them on high level. Last thing, networking. I talk about this a lot on my accounts. I'm gonna keep it brief right now as well. But basically, dude, just get LinkedIn Premium. I got the Sales Navigator one. You don't have to get that one, but you want to get LinkedIn Premium just because number one, it gives you limited searches, and you are going to run out of searches on LinkedIn, guaranteed. If you're trying to get into investment banking. And I got the Sales Navigator one because it number one allows me to build leads. That means like I can just kind of like save people's profiles and like have like a list of people that I still plan to reach out to. Also allows me to email people, which means to DM them directly on LinkedIn without being connected to them. So that was pretty helpful during my process of just trying to network. So yeah, those three things: good story, technicals, networking. Start networking with alumni from your school at first, but once you run out that, honestly, just network everywhere. Like it's don't worry about, oh, they don't go to my school and they don't want to talk to me. Nah, make sure as long as your networking email is like catered and personal to the person you're talking to, like don't just sound generic networking emails, right? Like actually put effort into like writing out like the person's background. Be like, oh, I saw you used to do this, do that. Now you work in banking. Love to hear about your story and your journey, how you broke into the industry. Have all that stuff in there. It will dramatically increase your reply rate. Trust me. I worked in banking. I know what works. Like when people send emails to me and stuff, like trust me, a lot of people send generic emails. I don't reply to them. If you send me more like a specific catered email, I'll probably reply to you. Like for example, during banking, my response rate when I was recruiting was like 15%, which is pretty high. That's pretty high. But if you send generic emails, I don't know, like maybe like 5% or something like that. It's gonna take you longer, but it'll be worth it. And honestly, like if you send like 5 to 7 emails a day, you're fine. You're fine. Like don't listen to all this bullshit. People going, oh, I send like 400 emails a day. Really? Really? You send 400 network emails a day? Okay, let's do math. Monday to Friday, 400 networking emails a day. That is 2,000 emails. Okay, you're gonna run out investment banking professionals. Like, I'm not even talking about like a banker or anything. You're gonna run out investment bankers to speak to in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, I don't think there's that many bankers in the USA and Canada combined. Let's even throw UK in there. Okay, let's say just for some reason networking UK companies. But yeah, like look, just make your emails detailed, dedicated to an individual, and you will see a much higher response rate. All right. I think that's all I need to cover for getting into banking. By the way, if anyone's listening to this and you have questions, like feel free to just reach out to me on Instagram. Like I don't bite, I'll answer your questions. As long as you don't spam me like all the time, like I will answer your questions as long as they're well thought out and thoughtful and stuff. So yeah, next up, I want to talk about my story of leaving investment banking. Right. So when I started my first day in investment banking, like first day on a job, my training was great. So my training was held in Charlotte, North Carolina, because that's where the Wells Fargo headquarters was held at. So it was a good time. I met a bunch of people, hung out with a bunch of coworkers. Everyone's like the same age. They were all like young, 22, 23, working our first jobs out of college. It was fine. It was great. I had a good time during training. But I remember coming back to the office, and the first day I stepped into my office, I knew something was off. It just, that feeling when you do something and from the get-go, it just kind of feels off, but you can't pinpoint why it felt that way. That's kind of how I felt when I stepped in the first day into the office at Wells Fargo. Again, everything I say in this podcast has nothing to do with the individual companies I work at. There's nothing bad to say anything bad about them. Like Piper and Wells, nothing bad. This is just all my personal experiences and my own personal observations based on like this is like a huge disclaimer right now. This is like just don't sue me. This is just my experience, okay, and things I'm thinking about. None of this has anything to do with the companies I work at. But I knew something off since day one, just because I don't know. I just felt like I was in the right place for some weird reason. And the first 6 months of the job were pretty chill. It was kind of tough because you're learning how everything works. You're learning the process. You're learning how like investment banking works, how investment banks operate. And they're chill, but I just never really enjoyed the job that much, right? Yeah, I was working like, some weeks I work like 40 hours, or weeks I work like 100 hours and stuff. Maybe balance out to be like 60, 70 hours a week. Um, but overall, like after some time, I just kind of felt like the job was kind of BS and the work I was doing was a little just BS, just for sake of it. Like I felt like it wasn't much value add, and I just never found much enjoyment doing the work. It didn't feel very analytical to me. You're just pulling data from different sources and putting shit together, and you don't really build financial models because I was on a coverage team. Even an M&A team, when you do, you're plugging stuff in the template anyway. So there wasn't a lot of analytical thinking. It was just like a lot of gathering data and putting stuff together and PowerPoint, Excel, and getting on calls. And yeah, you learn a lot, I guess you can say, like about industry, how the investing world works. But it wasn't what I thought it would be. I guess you can put it that way, right? And again, maybe it has something to do with the bank I worked on, the team I worked on, the location I was worked on, and may just had. I think it had a lot to do with my expectations of the job. But I'll tell you something. What I'm saying right now, if you ask any bankers, like it's pretty standard in what I'm saying right now. Like I'm not saying anything new right now about the job. Like no, a lot of people feel kind of the same way about the job. Um, but yeah, it was just one, and this was like in late 2019. Okay, so I started in June of 2019, and the job didn't. And then obviously, 2020 happened, and then we all know what happened. COVID hit during 2020, so I went home. So I was in San Francisco, and then I went home to LA when COVID hit in like February, March of 2020, right? And this is when everything got really bad. This is when everything got really bad. This is when you're just at home all day long. You're working in your house from like you wake up, you go to your desk 9 a.m. and then you get away. You eat lunch at your desk. You eat dinner at your desk. Not all the time. Sometimes you eat dinner at dinner table, and then you work, 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 and then you go to bed at 12. You wake up, do the same thing next day. So eventually, it just got very mentally draining because you're just in your room all day doing the same shit over and over again. Especially at the peak of COVID, beginning of it, when you literally just couldn't do anything, go out. You had no outlet, right? So that was legit just what you did all day long. um it really got to me, and I think I always tell people this: it's like COVID wasn't the reason why I quit banking. It just accelerated it. It just made the process faster. It just made me realize quicker why I didn't like the job, right? It gave me time, and I think this is pretty common among a lot of people that quit their jobs during COVID. It just gave you the opportunity to really be by yourself and understand, oh yeah, I really don't like this. When there's no of like that outside perspective, right? Like living in a city, hanging out with friends, I guess getting that prestige and clout from working in the finance industry and stuff. You don't get none of that. Just you in your home in your boxers, sitting in front of a computer, typing shit out on the computer, right? It's a lot different. So I was like, I don't want to think too much about this. Yeah, it's part of everybody hates their job, right? Everybody hates their job. It's this is normal. This is normal. It's normal that I'm feeling this way. So I'm not going to think too much about it. But what happened later on that year, in August of that year, I closed my first deal, right? I was working on this billion-dollar IPO for a company, and I was able to, be on that deal, and it was a great deal. It was awesome. I really liked my team, and I was able to close the deal. But I realized when the deal closed, I didn't really care. Like it didn't like feel anything special to me. I was just like, oh cool. Yeah, close the deal. All right, what's next? And kind of whole point of banking is to kind of close the deal and to have that feeling of satisfaction that you finally close the deal, right? To be like, yeah, fuck yeah, close the deal. Like this company is not public. Like look at what I did. But I never got that. And that was kind of disappointing to me because I thought that was kind of the point of why I joined industry, and I was like, what's the point of doing all this like sacrificing and all this like long hours and BS work and just like letting myself go in terms of like my health just for something that I wasn't even too happy about. And here's the next thing too: I got my bonus check right in like August of 2020, and when the check came in, I was like, yeah, that was a good amount of money, but I was also just like, whatever, man, whatever. Like it felt good, but it didn't change my life. Obviously, like, your first year analyst, like, you're not being paid that much anyways, but I thought what felt something more. I thought what felt something more. But I think that was the moment that I realized I had to quit banking. I think that's the moment I realized. I was like, deals do nothing for me. The bonus check didn't do anything for me. I'm going to hate my life if I continue down this path, right? And I kind of considered going to private equity, venture capital, corporate development at that point. But in the back of my head, I kind of knew what I wanted to do next. I kind of knew. I was like, I did banking for the wrong reasons. I joined it because I thought it was cool. It was prestigious. I wanted to work a more intense job. But mostly I did it because it was prestigious. I think that's pretty common. I think a lot of people do banking for a prestige, right? Prestige and money. Like, okay, if anyone says they didn't do banking for prestige and money, all right, you're lying. Okay, at least 20% you did for that reason. Okay, but I knew I wanted to try something more. And for me, doing something more was kind of like doing my own thing, right? I wanted to go down this path of like, I guess it's just self exploration, but I kind of wanted to like try out starting a business and also creating content. I knew creating content was something that I always wanted to do since when I was a kid. Like I used to make like video game commentary when I was like in middle school. I've stopped doing it because my siblings made fun of me. I got super insecure about it. But I always knew I wanted to create content. So I knew I wanted to quit my job since like August of like 2020, but I didn't execute on it until January 2021. And I want to talk a little about why it takes so long to quit the job investment banking, because the industry was so hard to get into in the first place. And because of that, and you get paid pretty well, and obviously, I create content about investment banking. So many people try to get into it. You almost feel this sense of like, why am I giving up something so good for this silly dream or interest that I have? Like, am I stupid for giving up something so good? Am I just spoiled? Am I unappreciative for not appreciating what I was able to achieve and having this nice job, even though, like, you work long hours, kind of toxic and stuff? But I think that was the biggest hardest part to overcome. And obviously the next part is just like, can I make more money on my own than I will of investment banking, right? Because it's also a huge financial risk in terms of like relatively, right? Like obviously, like you can work a job, any job, and probably make good money, but the people that get into banking are probably people that want to make a lot of money, right? And for you to quit and say, I'm going to sacrifice making a lot of money in banking, go figure out my own thing, and potentially not make any money for the next 2 years, while I see my peers not only continue to earn, but also invest their assets, money into assets and stuff, and be like having such a high earning power. Like a lot of my peers right now are probably making over 300 easily, invest in like the finance world, right? So I think that was the hardest part, was just like, number one, I feel like I was unappreciative for quitting this job that I should be technically appreciative for having. Like I should be happy I have this job. Number two, it's like, damn, like I'm a competitive guy. It's like, yeah, am I really going to sacrifice like this earning potential for this silly dream that I have? But I knew I was young. I'm still young, relatively, 26 today. But I knew I was young, and I knew I had to do something about it. Cause I was like, if I don't do something now, I know 5, 10 years from now, I'm gonna regret not doing it. I'm gonna regret it, 100%. And that feeling of knowing that I'll regret not trying something for myself was exponentially scarier than the financial risk, the guilt of staying in the job or not staying in a job. I think another reason why I knew I had to quit investment banking was, I think deep down inside, I just knew I was never going to be the best banker, because how I just wasn't a fan of the industry. I didn't really resonate with the culture of it. And, I just never really found the job and the work that interesting. I mean, granted, I don't think a lot of people do, but I think because of those reasons, I kind of knew I was never going to be a great banker, right? I was just going to be kind of mediocre. And I didn't want to work a job and become like so tenured in a job that I knew I was just going to be okay at, right? Because if I'm going to do something, I want to be great at it. I want to be at least in like the top 1% or something, right? And what's the point of working a job if you feel like you're just going to be kind of like mid tier? So yeah, I want to try other things because I was like, maybe my talent and my interests are hidden somewhere else, right? And it's up to me to explore that, because whatever it was, I was like, probably isn't in banking. I didn't think this was for me. And that's why I knew I had to quit. So over the Christmas of 2020, I took 2 weeks off from work, Christmas time. Thank God that I some of my coworkers had work over Christmas and New Year's. Thank God I did it. I just had time to myself. I had time to myself to really think about what I wanted, and I came to a conclusion. Like I said, it's just like, no, the risk of quitting does not weigh, or how should I say? It's like the risk isn't that high. Like I think there's more risk staying in this job because I know I would hate myself and regret not trying something in 5 to 10 years. And I always knew I wanted to like do something entrepreneurial, start business, because anytime I had interview, people were like, "Oh, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?" I always say, "Oh, I want to be my own business owner. I want to start a business." I always said that since the beginning. Even when I was an engineer, I always said I wanted to be business owner of some type. And I was like, now's the time to go try it. You tried investment banking. That was cool. Now it's almost felt like it was like, you've done that. It's time for your next move, next step in life. So January 1st, or whenever it was, the first day we got back to work, what was actually funny at this point was I was actually planning to lateral to a different bank because I thought that'll solve my problems, right? I was like, oh, I'm not happy at this current bank. Let me lateral to a different bank. That'll probably solve my problems. And these were like, other like big bulge bracket banks that I would have only dreamed of interviewing at 2 years ago. Dreamed, right? These banks would never have gave me a chance 2 years ago. Now they're like, oh yeah, you should come interview for us. So literally, like, the first day I came back to work, I put in my 2-week notice to my boss, and I turned down all the super day offers at these other banks and said, "Sorry, I don't want to interview. I'm done. I'm done with investment banking. I'm just done." So yeah, that was it. I quit my job. I told my managers, told my peers that I was quitting. Everyone's like, "Where are you going? You going to different shops? Where are you laddering to? You going to corporate development? You going to private equity?" I was just like, "Nah, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna try my own thing." And yeah, that was kind of story from there on. And honestly, best fucking decision of my life. I mean, I don't want to say it like that, in which it's like, oh yeah, like you ever should quit banking. It's such a shitty job and stuff. But for me, doing that was kind of like monumental in me, like just having that courage to finally quit something that I kind of worked so hard to get, and it kind of like proved to me that like I have that mental fortitude to give up something that I value so much because I feel like there's something much better out there for me. You know, like, I forget who said this. I think it's Alex Hormozy or something. He said something on lines of like, we usually won't give up what we have because we don't understand like what's out there because we don't want to give up something good for the possibility of something great. Right. And I think that really applies here. Like banking was something good, but I want to chase something great. And I knew I had to give up something good to chase something great. And that's why I made the decision. So yeah, oh shit, damn, this podcast has been super long so far. But I want to tell my whole story. So, anyways, the last portion, I'm just going to quickly run over what I'm doing next, right? Oh yeah, if any of you guys out there are trying to quit investment banking, just put it this way. Here's my advice for anyone out there that wants to quit investment banking. If you quitting doesn't hurt any, well, number one, you gotta understand this. Are you trying to quit because you hate your job, you hate working a job, or you just want a different job? That's number one you gotta ask yourself. If you just want a different job, just go get a different job, right? But if you realize you hate working a job and you want to try something else, ask yourself this next question. Is me quitting going to impact anyone around me? Am I hurting anyone by quitting this job, right? Is there someone that depends on me financially that if I quit, I kind of screw them over? If not, fuck it, dude. Just fucking do it. It's like the only person you're hurting is yourself, right? I mean, I shouldn't say that, but if you're not gonna hurt anyone around you, and no one's gonna be affected by your decision, why does it matter? Just do it. Just try it. You can, especially if you're a banker, you can always find another job. You can always find another job, which kind of sucks because it kind of gives you like kind of like I don't know, it almost makes you lazy as an entrepreneur sometimes because you're like, oh yeah, this doesn't work out. I'll just go back and probably get another 6-figure job again. But look, that's my belief. If you're not hurting anyone and like you're not looking for a different job, you want to try something on your own, you want to quit like just working corporate for a bit, just go for it, man. Just go for it. That'll be my advice. All right. Last part. Thank you all. Thank you. Whoever's listening to this right now still, thank you so much. If you are, send me a DM on Instagram. Like message me and let me know you actually listen to this podcast. Like, I will love you forever if you actually listen this far and deep into it. Next part, what I am up to now. So as you all know, I mean, probably you're listening to podcasts, I create content on TikTok, right? So I've been doing that for a year and 7 months at this point. Cause I started in January 2021. Literally like Thursday, like the week after I quit my job, I posted my first TikTok about investment banking. And if you guys don't know my story, I started out creating TikTok about investment banking, how to get into it, my story, my lifestyle. Eventually, I started going more broad. I started talking about more general career tips, networking tips, interviewing tips, and obviously the email templates that everyone knows me for. I started doing that. That really blew up my account. But now I feel like I'm at the point where, which is kind of the reason why I'm doing this podcast right now, is I want to start niching down and kind of start focusing back in on the finance content in the finance community and investment banking. Because I feel like that's where my voice is at, and that's where my true value add comes in. Because obviously, like I come from that world. I understand, I guess, the life and the mindset of like finance investment bankers, and I think that's just where my value add is at. And I wanna create content that people find valuable for me, right? So I definitely want to start niching back down into the finance content community. I'm still not going to stop doing like my email templates and networking, general recruits, all that stuff. But I want to start creating a lot more finance content, finance related content, because again, I just feel like that's where I can find my true strength, my true voice, and where I can really foster community around it. Like with both aspiring finance professionals and also current finance professionals, either looking to switch a different finance job or get out finance altogether. I wanna be kind of like that voice and build that community of like professionals in the finance world. And down the line, who knows, right? Maybe we branch out into like more general career stuff. Maybe I don't even do this anymore, but as it stands, that's kind of like my current plan. E-commerce. So if you guys don't know as well, I also been working on drop shipping in the past year and a half as well. Again, I had like ups and downs. Was able to scale a couple stores, or I guess like 3 stores in total. Like I think I scaled like 3 stores in total. Like all the revenue added up together was like 150,000. But unfortunately, it was not profitable on those 3 stores, or I guess I broke even technically. I'll say I broke even on those 3 stores all added together. Maybe even a little bit profitable if you like remove all the money I spent on mentorships and stuff. But I do plan on, still continuing doing e-commerce. I'm taking a break from it right now just because I got so burnt out from it. So I'm just taking a break from it. But I do plan on getting back into it like I guess like next week, because I have goals for e-commerce and I want to accomplish those goals. And you know what? If I don't hit those goals, that's fine. But I want to try to still strive for it, right? But if I come to realize that e-commerce just isn't for me, it's not going to work, and there's other business opportunities are better and smarter for me to do, I'll probably go pursue that instead. But as it stands, I still want to make e-commerce work for me. I'm gonna start doing more brand partnerships, but going forward, the brands that I want to work with, I really only want to work with brands that I truly believe in, and I want to start signing like more long term partnerships with these brands because I don't want to do these one offs. Just because I feel like it doesn't provide a lot of value to these brands. Like people don't really convert off of one ad. Also, like I want to work with brands that I know my audience likes and my audience would resonate with, right? For example, I would love to do a brand partnership with LinkedIn. Why? Well, number one, I talk about quite a bit. Number two, I actually love LinkedIn. Number three, like, yo, I attribute half the reason I got into investment banking because of LinkedIn. So if there's any way to have like a win-win-win for all three parties, like, I give my viewers a discount code on LinkedIn Premium, and you guys go sign up for LinkedIn Premium, and obviously I get a cut of it and stuff. But yeah, then it'll be a win-win-win situation, right? It's just like I get value, my audience gets value, and LinkedIn gets value as well. So that'll become a plan going forward. I might still do one-off brand deals here and there, but I definitely want to start focusing on more long-term brand partnerships and working on brands that I feel like really resonate with my audience and kind of what I'm about. Last thing, other monetizations things, because now I'm kind of like a year and a half into like this whole entrepreneurship journey. I'm really starting to like, focus on and, making sense of how I'm going to make this sustainable, how I'm going to monetize my content, how I'm going to successfully build a business around this, around e-commerce as well. And, I've been potentially, and this is like very up in the air. And, if you guys are, listening to this, I would love to hear your feedback about this. But I might potentially consider creating like a mentorship for investment banking, like college students, university students, or even people in the postgraduate that want to get into investment banking but don't know where to begin, right? Whether you go to non-target school, you have no experience, because that's kind of like where I came from. So I really understand a lot of where you guys are coming from if you don't have an experience of like I guess like knowing anything about investment banking to gain to a point of knowing enough to get a job and internship. Like I know how to walk through the entire process because obviously I've done it before. So I've been considering like creating like a mentorship program. I don't know if it's gonna be like 101, cohort mentorship, or just like do like a course with like with like one-on-one calls like tagged onto the course for like the next recruitment cycle, right? So like for sophomores, incoming sophomores for next spring's recruitment. So I don't know. I've been thinking about that. If any of you guys are interested in that idea or participating in it, like let me know if you're interested in like me creating a mentorship for college students to get into investment banking, or even like people who already graduated that want to get into banking. Like you guys are out the picture as well. But yeah, just send me a DM on Instagram if that sounds interesting to you. If I actually have people, I mean, I don't know if anyone's listening to, like, this, like, an hour into this podcast, just me talking about myself, but if you are and you hear this and you're interested, like, definitely let me know. Like, I would love to, like, understand what you guys have any thoughts around that. Because then they like, I don't wanna do it if no one wants me to do it, and I hate to say this, but I really don't like selling my audience on, like, stuff, but, it just doesn't make me feel good. It just doesn't make me feel good. I'm gonna be completely honest, but if I'm trying to, I guess, be like a better business person, if there's a way I can provide value and you guys can get valued as well, and I can obviously get paid for it, then maybe at the end of the day it's a win-win situation and it's not so bad, right? Like sales shouldn't be and business shouldn't be viewed as a bad thing, but I just don't like selling things to my audience. I just don't. But if I'm to do the mentorship, I will have to charge for it, obviously, just because, well, your boy got to make a living. Um, so yeah, that's about wraps up this episode. The first ever episode of the revamped Maming Duck podcast. Again, I'm still working on the name. I'm probably just going to name it something like breaking into investment banking and parentheses like or out. I think that's just what I talk about. But if you're tuning in still, this is a podcast about finance, breaking out finance, and talking about different careers in finance and how I guess like we can learn about different lifestyles and careers in finance and how, finance may not be the only career out there for you, right? The different careers that you can potentially go into if you don't want to work in a finance career. But other than that, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys all on the second episode. See you guys. Bye.